All right, welcome to the podcast. I am joined today by Dr. Shannon Bybee, Dr. Neela Sandel, dialing in here. I'm Dr. Dan Horzempa, and just to start out, we're going to be talking a little bit about functional medicine, integrative medicine today, getting into some of the details. We get this question a lot from patients. What is functional medicine? What's integrative medicine? And what's the difference? So we're going to dive into that today. But I was thinking we would start with introductions and just kind of brief backgrounds. And so we're going to start with Dr. Shannon Bybee and her background.
Yeah, so I'm relatively new to medicine. I started life as an engineer, have a degree in mechanical engineering and a master's in measurements and controls. Growing up, I thought I was going to be an astronaut. And I could see went to NASA as kind of a little internship and worked in the wind tunnels, worked with lasers. I'm a science geek. I really love physics. And got into engineering, found myself in Tucson because I thought I was going to get my PhD in optical science because I really love lasers and lights and lenses. And as I started that journey, I got pregnant with my now 18-year-old daughter and found that having a full-time job, working on a PhD program, and having a daughter was just a little bit more than I could handle. So I decided I would go part-time work and I would put the PhD on hold. Unfortunately, the part-time job turned into, I think I'm going to go to medical school.
There you go.
They say having a kid changes everything, and it really does. Yeah. I really got interested in how do I take care of this new being that I am now responsible for? What do I feed her? How do I take care of her? What medicines do I give her? What makes sense? And so I started, getting interested in nutrition and found myself like, well, I'll apply to medical school and see what happens. And I got lucky. I applied to one school. I got in. And, kind of the rest is history. The plan for me was always, I want to figure out how to do things as natural as possible. And so I went to medical school with the idea, like, I'm going to get the degree, I'm going to get the education. But once I'm out, I want to figure out how do I take care of people on a level in which they are getting better. Take away from that sick care model and really work on preventative care. How do we get healthy? How do we stay healthy? And just share my love of nutrition and exercise and vitality for life.
Yeah And certainly what I love about you is you approach it systematically from your engineering background. So although you're in the natural health and integrative medicine and functional medicine sphere, which we'll talk more about today, you're very, very systematic in your approach from that, and which is a good thing.
Can't help it.
No, I think that's a compliment. That is a good thing. Because you're covering all the bases, you're not missing things.
Yeah, I'm really interested in mechanisms and how do things work and what's upstream and what's downstream. A pill for every ill just doesn't make sense to me. Yeah. Like there's got to be some overlying mechanism that makes a lot more sense. The body doesn't make mistakes. It's doing something for a reason.
Yeah.
We got to figure out what the reason is.
Yeah, and we may talk a little bit about systems-based biology later, but certainly that really fits in well with engineering, right?
Got to debug the system.
There you go. All right. Dr. Neela Sandel, give us a little bit of background on you, sir.
Yeah, sure. So I love what you said, Shannon, about really walking both worlds. And I think that that's something incredibly common to people in our profession, right? Everyone has this high degree of technical aptitude and scientific interest, and yet it gets modified somehow, by some other viewpoint. And, it's not uncommon that things that are a synthesis of two purported paradoxes ends up being much more powerful than each singular thing. And I find that is very much true for myself as well. I would say that I came to integrative medicine through kind of a circuitous path. I was raised with two parents who were both religious monks. And through my upbringing, very much spiritual upbringing, and they weren't by any means non-scientific, but it certainly wasn't the focus. And, as all young people do, they rebel against their parents. And so by the time that I was going to college, I was like, well, I'm going to go to the best college I can get to. I'm going to, be a scientist. I'm going to whatever. That stuff's hocus pocus. And then, as I think all children who become adults eventually come to, they go, oh, my parents really did understand stuff very, very well. And with maturity comes wisdom. And so I took that science background, but I had always approached it naturally with the ideas that were instilled upon me and to me by my parents. And one of those was Ayurveda, the traditional medicine system of India, and its close relative, traditional Chinese medicine, also called TCM. And so through undergraduate, I had wonderful opportunities to study the history and philosophies of these medical systems, in addition to the histories and philosophies of conventional medical systems. So then by the time I went to medical school, I was already thinking about things pretty differently. I like what you said about systems-based approach, Dan. When I was going through medical school, I would continuously try to figure out why cases that weren't going the right way weren't going the right way. And it almost always came back to some failure to see the big picture, the actual total person. I love what you said, Shannon, a pill for every ill. It really just doesn't make sense. It's not a robust philosophy of health or health care. At best, it's illness care, but that really only fits for chronic illness, acute illness. And chronic illness then gets left out in the cold and a little confused. So that's kind of my path. And then I ended up going to Tucson, where I met Dan, where he taught me how to work out properly while we suffered through the yoke of residency, for which I'm much indebted to him for all his support and friendship. And I'm just happy to be here with you guys. I'm in Lawrence, Kansas now. I'm the director of Atma Clinic. Atma, from the old Sanskrit or Ayurvedic word that implies the total person, the whole person, the mind, the body, and spirit, because all of those are critically important to being in a state of health. If we focus on just the body, I think that is very readily demonstrable, missing critical components.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, and my path's a little different because my path kind of starts as a patient when I'm 11, 12 years old, and I get these headaches that just don't go away. They just continue on. And I see my family doctor, I see a neurologist, I see headache specialists, I see, and it's, again, coming back to your mind, body, spirit, it's everything is kind of looking at the body, you're getting brain scans, try this drug, try that drug, nothing's working. And so, yeah, suddenly, my parents are like, well, this is that case that things are not going the way they're supposed to. We've seen all the doctors, we've seen the specialists, these headaches remain. And so, my parents were like, let's look elsewhere. Let's look at homeopathy. Let's look at traditional Chinese medicine. Let's look at nutrition. My mom, God bless her, she started, shopping at Whole Foods. Like, we were in Texas at the time. Whole Foods started in Texas. She starts going to this weird place, Whole Foods, and getting this organic food, and during a time point when nobody really knew about that stuff. So that was kind of my exposure. And then certainly over time, I think it was probably, as we see today when we work with patients in an integrative fashion, it's not one thing. Usually it's a combination of things. I think it was probably a combination of all those things over time, and eventually culminating in me seeing a headache specialist who was, although he wasn't, integrative medicine didn't exist at the time, or functional medicine, he would today be called an integrative or functional neurologist, probably. And he was like, this is a viral infection. We need to strengthen the immune system. We need these herbs and these botanicals, and to do this and to do that. And I got better. And so that always stuck with me, and was not only a motivator for kind of getting into medicine, but also understanding there's more here than the pharmacologic approach. There's so many other tools that are out there that are not widely utilized in conventional medicine that we need to, at the very least, think about. And many of them we need to, again, bring into our practice as best we can. So That's
I think
my,
it's a really good segue into our topic for today, right? And we were wanting to talk about what is functional medicine and what is integrative medicine, and we can talk about those two terms separately. But I think we're kind of all in agreement that some degree of that is branding. There's an enormous amount of overlap there, but the segue here is that the function of both of these systems of medicine is to go beyond the limits of mainstream medicine. So when someone has an issue that is resistant to therapy and they've been put through the ringer and they've seen the neurologist and other specialists and they're just going, hey, this isn't working, they want to find someone who thinks about them bio-individually. What is it about this person? What has been missed in the complexity? What are perhaps the multifactorial reasons that this person hasn't had success? And I think in a real way that is foundational to the definition of both of these styles of medicine. I don't know how to pithily encapsulate that. I'd be open to suggestions, but I think that's very much at the heart and soul of things.
yeah, I agree. I mean, I also agree on the branding side of things. Yeah, I mean, there are different camps that are integrative, different camps that are functional, a lot of overlapping there. In general, I tell patients, and this is more speaking from that branding perspective, that functional medicine has a real interest in the diagnostics, so there's a real interest in outside the box diagnostic thinking, and also thinking about diagnostically things different, from a systems biology approach. I look at integrative medicine, and again, some of this is just from going through the training and the fellowship in these things, but integrative medicine largely concentrates a lot on the multi-modalities of treatment that we have. So we talk there's a lot of learning of nutrition, of exercise, herbs and botanicals, and so it's a lot focused on the treatment side. And so I always tell patients, I think we need both. We need that broader treatment perspective, but we also need that broader diagnostic perspective.
I'm coming to the place more and more where I describe what I do specifically as integrative medicine, because I see integrative medicine looking at all of these different modalities, like you were saying, and utilizing functional medicine as one of those modalities. There's still a lot of defining that I think is happening in our professional space. There are all sorts of people who call themselves functional medicine doctors or integrative medicine doctors, and it's still not a particularly well-regulated space. And so there is still a lot of kind of defining that's happening. It can be, I think, challenging for patients to therefore make a determination on the quality of a practitioner. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do agree with that. I mean, one of the big problems I see, and I'm sure you've seen the same thing, is replacing the model of, come in, be evaluated, give a pill. That's, pretty standard in conventional medicine, with come in, get evaluated, and get a supplement, so I see that being
a different version of illness management rather than getting to the root cause. Yeah.
Yes. So, that I see as a huge problem. And I see that being, largely, folks who are kind of advertising as functional medicine or integrative medicine. A lot of times, at least when there's an advert, kind of building yourself up as functional medicine, there may be some more advanced diagnostics, but even that, as you guys well know,
they have to be interpreted right? They have to be interpreted in, as Shannon was saying, that systems approach, right? What is the data without the picture?
Yeah. And, certainly, like, do we need to order every functional test on every patient? Probably not, I mean, so sometimes you see patients come in with just this huge stack of paperwork, or they send you hundreds of pages of PDFs of labs, and it's like,
you're like, oh, I just need an iron level, and that's really all the information we need. Let's start here. That cost $5.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it is trying to simplify all of this, and what does all this mean? And it's a signal to noise thing too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not every value within this functional testing is equally weighted. Right?
Yeah.
So, some things, there's, I guess some of the common things I see patients really terrified about is like ApoE4, for instance, which is, kind of built up as the Alzheimer's gene. And so patients think, I have this, I'm getting Alzheimer's. And it's like, well, wait, why do people have a higher risk for Alzheimer's with this is the question.
A lot of steps in between point A and point B. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and certainly a significant part of the value that we provide to our clientele, our patients, is helping them navigate all that space. I think patients are very bashful about coming to MDs with research. They've kind of been trained out of that by mainstream medicine. They're used to getting a negative reaction to that. I'm pretty confident you guys feel the same way about this that I do, but I love that.
Yeah.
I love for my patients to come in well informed.
You are going to spend so much time. Bring me your research.
Yeah.
Yeah. And no one is closer to their individual health and biochemistry than they are.
Yeah.
Right. And so I often see functional and integrative medicine at almost in kind of a coaching role, an empowering role. What we want patients to do is to come away from seeing us with a bunch of education and feel empowered and go, oh, okay, so I have ApoE4. That means this limited thing. But between point A and point B, there are all these steps that Dr. Horzempa helped me figure out. Great. Now I'm off to the races.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the education part, I think, is huge. Whether you're talking integrative or functional medicine, that is a huge part of what we do. And that's another thing I tell patients, is that, these approaches involve, working together as a team, and also, my job oftentimes, especially in the beginning, is as an educator. We will educate each other. The patient, as you said, will educate you as well. Either through the insights that they provide, which I always try to definitely take into account, because sometimes those insights are profound, oftentimes, as well as, just being able to, we have whiteboards in our office. And the reason we have those is because we're teaching a lot, we're pathways, we're drawing pictures, we're, trying to put all this together for patients. And a lot of times, if patients are leaving the practice, I say, it's kind of like they're graduating almost.
Yeah.
They've graduated. They've learned everything they need to know. Be healthy.
Empowered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I'm giving one of our video informational talks to patients who are questioning whether or not they want to come into the practice, I'm telling them, you get up to 10 visits, and then you get well, what do I need 10 visits for? I'm not going to get that sick. I'm like, yeah, this isn't the sick model. What I'm looking for is we're going to sit down for 90 minutes that first time, and we're really going to get to know each other. And then I'm going to put together a plan, and I want to see you back in 4 to 6 weeks, because I will need to know, is that plan working, and what went wrong and what's not working for you, so we can switch it up and then make some changes, and then make a little bit more progress and a little bit more progress. Because if the goal is, optimal health for you, whatever that may be, we're not going to get there by me only seeing you when you're sick. So we really need to work together to develop a plan that makes sense for you and, makes sense based on the research.
Time is a big part of the differentiation between mainstream medicine and functional and integrative medicine, right? We have to spend that time to really see the big picture, to consider all the variables that might be affecting someone's health, to understand that system, and just to gather that data and to do a diligent job. In a lot of senses, I think functional and integrative medicine, another potential definition of that is a methodology that better aligns the doctor-patient relationship. It moves it away from something that I think most people have come very clear-sightedly to see as most generously dysfunctional. And again, not to knock on other MDs, we all know plenty of conventional MDs who are absolutely lovely and wonderful people, but there's an old saying that the cage makes the beast. And when we practice in a conventional system, there are all sorts of bureaucratic demands, all sorts of mismatched incentives that happen. The insurance system, we could have a whole talk on how that damages the doctor-patient relationship. And so I think that functional integrative medicine, one of the most important things it does is just spends time with patients. And of course, that time is not ever flat or simple. There is so much to do if we are changing the definition of health, if we are reorienting people's expectations of their health from, well, okay, I'm not dead yet. I'm taking a statin drug and a blood pressure medicine and a medicine for my blood sugar, and it's managing things. And I hope it continues to manage things. And my doctor will give me a stronger drug when it fails to manage things. If we're wanting people to change their set point, their expectations from that to, hey, I'm feeling awesome. I'm perfect. I'm doing wonderfully. I feel like I did when I was 25. And I'm always encouraging patients, to be a perfectionist with your health, right? There's a lot of overlap with functional and integrative medicine with longevity and regenerative medicine.
Yep.
And I know you guys do some of that practice too, yeah?
Yep.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's, it's moving patients on that spectrum that you perfectly described: sick, normal, optimal.
Yeah.
And we are
Mainstream medicine stops at neutral.
Yeah.
Right? We're ill, we're acutely ill, we're really struggling. It's managed.
Yeah.
Hopefully resolved, but managed. Okay, yeah, but what about this? Right? What about health care, not just illness care?
Yeah, I mean, you're getting people from sick to normal, maybe.
Right.
It's not moving people to optimal.
Yeah.
Right.
And another piece of the puzzle, and you said it very well, Neela, is time. The time we get to spend with patients is probably the most therapeutic intervention that we can offer. People feel like they're being heard and that you're listening to them. And they're finally getting to get all their grievances, all of their issues, everything that's going on the table for you to see. And
you can't do good detective work without that, right?
yeah.
So not only is it wonderful for us and patients because we all learn from each other, but it leads to much better results.
Oh yeah, you listen long enough, they tell you what's wrong and how to fix it.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
It almost makes you feel like, in that respect, it almost makes you feel guilty sometimes, because it's like, well, you're telling me, you're really kind of suggesting the solution here, and that is the thing that's working, but you've spent all that time building up to that, getting to know them, creating a plan, looking at how that plan's working, how it's not, adjusting it, kind of this constant tinkering of.
It's kind of that coach role, right?
Absolutely.
We're not the athlete. They're doing a lot of the hard work. We're just kind of helping them figure out a smart training plan. How do you support that? Do you need some herbs, some supplementation to get you over this hump? Okay, there's a barrier. But they're the one in the ring doing the hard work, and we're just happy when they win.
Yeah. Yeah, they're an athlete of life, essentially, and we're the coach. So yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Coming back to this idea of incentives and aligning incentives, and that functional and integrative medicine is an idea that helps to better align incentives. One of the things that I think patients find complex or a barrier to functional integrative medicine is the cost. Of course, people are quite acclimated to the idea that they pay their insurance premiums and deductibles, and that their physician's visits are very, very cheap. And so there's kind of a obscuring of that cost for people, which, is important and complex as far as, free market consumerism goes. But it's also a real thing. They feel that they are on the hook for their premium. And of course, it's important for people to have some catastrophic insurance coverage in the US. And so then they look at our services as functional integrated medicine providers that are almost always cash oriented, often with some variety of subscription. And like you were saying earlier, Shannon, they go, 10 hours? Do I need to meet with you that often? Is this really going to take that much time? Yeah, that does seem like a lot of money. What are your guys's, how do you guys discuss that with patients?
Well, one of the things I think about is you buy insurance for your car, for just in case you have that accident. But insurance doesn't pay for the gas. It doesn't pay for the maintenance. It doesn't pay for car washes or tire changes or anything like that. Why do we think healthcare should cover the same type of maintenance? I mean, this is the most important vehicle you have, and you want to take care of it within your financial means. And so I think it's important that you put a little money in the game, because that shows that you value your health. And, I'm going to give you some recommendations, and you want to make sure that those recommendations are, worth your money. So you're probably going to take the supplements. You're probably going to do some exercise. You're going to change some diet. I think, having to pay for your health care at some level makes a lot of sense. And those people are the ones who make the most progress.
Yeah, I think I like the investment analogy, that it is an investment. What better thing to invest in than your own health long term, and making sure that you're doing everything you can to stay as healthy as you can for as long as you can. I think the other thing, though, is certainly as integrative and functional medicine doctors, we self-select for those patients.
Who are motivated.
Yeah. I mean, I think I rarely, unless it's like, there's some circumstances sometimes, but it's pretty rare that I don't have a patient who puts, 4 out of 5 motivation for most things. Asking. So
yeah,
the selection process going on too.
I like the way you guys both put these things. Ultimately you get what you pay for. And I wish that our insurance system didn't obscure costs, or at least aligned incentives in a better way. And given the system that we have, functional and integrated medicine then becomes a way for people to say, well, okay, things aren't aligned well in mainstream medicine. The incentives are not there for my physician, who is a very nice person, but systemically, things are not aligned for them to give me health care, to give me time, attention, proper detective work, labor, and really get into the root of things and do an excellent job. And, until enough people speak with their wallet, that insurance companies have to listen and start to make some adjustment towards aligning their incentives so that, people will purchase that product because people want to come and have a superior product. Yeah, definitely a complexity. One thing that I know we're all very aware of is we want this to be affordable to everyone who wants to get a hold of it. But simultaneously, it also does take some money and some time. That is often a barrier for patients as well. And so, Dan, I like the way you put that. Functional and integrated medicine is a self-selective process. If it's worth it to people to put the time and money into their health, they will come to us. And I think that fellows like Joe Rogan and Andrew Huberman are really doing a wonderful thing in pushing the culture in that direction. And it's not, quote unquote, towards functional and integrative medicine. It's towards changing that expectation of our health. We just happen to be the coaches who are best adapted to get people there. And so I'm always really eager to see that. And hopefully as that happens more and more, and people go, well, hang on, I deserve to be really healthy. I don't need to have a knee that hurts me all the time, and now I can't exercise because of that, and I'm not having fun maintaining my health, and so now I dwindle. No. Let's get way out in front of that. But you have to be interested in that. You have to have given it some thought and said, okay, I want to do that, and I'm going to put some time, attention, or money on the table to do that. And so I know, it's important to all of us that things are affordable. But it's kind of like buying a good mattress or a good pillow, or like you were saying, maintain your car. The things that you spend the most time with are where you probably should put your money. Yeah. And I think people really are stuck in the medical insurance paradigm, and the way that we encourage people to shift their expectation. We have to get them to think honestly about what they're getting from mainstream medicine and whether they would appreciate an alternative. And also, part of the reason that we're doing podcasts like this is because people have to believe that there is something else, right? Joe Rogan and Andrew Huberman are doing a great job, but there's a lot of people who really don't understand that, you can go beyond that neutral point that you were describing, Dan.
Yeah.
So in a real sense, I think it's a really exciting time to be a doctor, and it's a really exciting time to be a patient.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the patients, they have to kind of climb this idea hierarchy, and it starts down at the bottom with the person who's like, I go in for an annual physical every year, and I think that's enough, to, the next level up saying, well, maybe my doctor can order, like a few extra labs here that and they just climb the hierarchy from there, and I love what you said. Certainly, Joe Rogan, Andrew Huberman, Rhonda Patrick, I will call these people out because they're doing great work to build this up, build up this idea that, okay, there's so many things you can do to modify your health. There's a lot of power that you have as an individual to do that. So it's not just the world is acting on you when you have no power. You have a lot of power and a lot of control. And then, that's often at the point where people are understanding that, where they find us. And they, there are doctors out there that are doing this, that are building towards this approach of optimal health or longevity or whatever you want to call it, but trying to get people to that place where they can do all the things they want to do for as long as they want to do.
And I think it's magnificent. I don't know a single functional or integrative medicine MD who doesn't put out a bunch of wonderful free material for people. Right? We are all collectively passionate about people actualizing their health. Yeah. And if they need a coach and they need the time and they want to come to us, we're very, very happy to do that, of course. But we're mostly just collectively happy to see things shift.
Yeah. Well, I think part of this podcast too is, we don't have the time to see everyone who comes to us and is interested in joining. Unfortunately, it's getting to that point where we're busy enough that, we can't, there's more interest than there is hours in our day.
Yeah.
So yeah, it makes sense to really try to put some additional knowledge out there. I think as three clinicians, we have a unique perspective, and being able to especially, talk with one another and, come to, not a consensus is not the word, but being able to talk about topics and just hear different points of view and how that's approached, will certainly be helpful for anybody listening to this. And it's going to be helpful for us too.
Good. Well, I'm excited for our next episode. But even our talk today, we've generated so many different potential topics. We can come up with a topic. I would love to hear from some of our collective patients, your guys' practice, my practice, what people are interested in. We're always open to suggestions. We're wanting to put out information that is useful for you guys. So anybody who has any particular interests, let us know. We may go rogue and come up with something that's just inspiring us too, but we'll put it on the list of things to do. Any other thoughts, any other stuff you guys wanted to get through today? We were really talking about this idea of what is functional integrative medicine. I think we've done that some justice.
Yeah. I think that one other, potential idea for future episodes is certainly, I'm sure you get this, patient asking about a certain, whatever it may be, a certain diagnostic test, or just kind of a broader topic overall. And you're like, man, we could spend the whole hour on this. And I find those things come up again and again. So, we can now do entire episodes on this and refer our patients to those episodes. And I think we should all start collecting those questions, because I'm sure you've had those where it's like, well, we've got, 16 pages of labs to review today. This is a great question. I'd love to spend the entire time on this.
I literally said that yesterday.
Yeah. There you go. So I think that's another potential, certainly patients, now that they know we're doing this, will have direct questions that we can answer on here. But I think that's a good way to start thinking about from a place to draw questions from within our patient populations. So, yeah. Great. All right. Well, thank you guys today. This was a lot of fun. We will definitely be doing more episodes regularly now, and I'm just looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Send
us your topic.
Same.
Yeah. Send us topics.
Take care, everybody. Hope it was useful. We look forward to seeing you guys next time.